Good morning from Sacred Space at Titania's Realm. It's the 22nd of August 2025 and the time is 9:21 a.m. The Mama T is cooking on gas. I'm awake and I'm up and I'm dressed and I'm happening in a far out way, or a not so far out way as the case may be, but I'm here and I'm ready to present to you another chapter of Satan's Choice by Lorne Campbell and Peter Edwards. The sun's come out to play this morning. It was a bit grim the last few days and I was expecting more rain, but it looks like we're going to have a nice day. So the little handsome birdie boys, when I finish the story and it warms up a bit more outside, are going to go outside and little Bo will be able to explore his new cage and have more fun out there with more room to flippity jibbity flutter by. My little babies. I've just chopped up all their fruit and vegetables fresh and they're just nonplussed. They don't really care. They're in a strange mood the last few days. I think it's because of all the rain. Anyway, the garden's looking bright and beautiful and the light's shining and there's every reason to be just ebullient and delighted with life and thrilled to bits. And so we're going to go with that. I might take myself out a bit later. I've got to buy a few bits and bobs I forgot to buy when I bought some groceries on Wednesday. I hate shopping, so I zone out and I forget things, and I didn't want to be in there for very long, so I didn't buy very much. I've got to go back and torture myself again. It's like, why? I could buy it online, but it costs extra money, and you know, I'm not that sick now that I can justify buying them online. I only do that when I'm, you know, feeling too unwell to be bothered to go out at all. So, but it's a gorgeous day and it's Friday. So as of sundown this evening, it'll be Shabbat for my Jewish viewers and friends and family and fellow congregants and non-affiliated like me, excuse me, across the globe. So I'm getting weird messages from eBay. That's why I'm looking up and looking confused. It's annoying. But I ordered a very big tarp to go over the cage to keep the rain off it because it's brand new. I don't want it to rust straight away. So that'll be exciting when that comes. It's all happening. I've got everything perfectly oriented and organised, and the house looks nice because Rati cleaned yesterday. I just have all the dusting to do, which I dread, and it's a big bloody job, but oh well, it'll happen. Probably when my lungs are feeling less flaccid and wispy and not all that great, to be honest. Anyway, I went to bed early last night because I felt, you know, I really felt ick. And I did my, I don't know how accurate it is, but I did my blood stats on my Apple iPhone watch, which you can see I'm not wearing today because I actually hate wearing watches. I only accepted it because it was a bargain and they kind of, you know, wheedled me into it because it's a bargain, and they said it's good for people who are older because it tracks your health, and I'm not sure I want to be tracked, quite frankly, so I don't wear it most of the time. But yesterday I had a day where I thought I'll just wear it and get used to it, you know, get used to the new technology. And it was interesting because yesterday it said my In the afternoon it said my blood oxygen stats were 97, which is not too bad. And then they went up to 98 by about 7 o'clock-ish. And then when I went to bed at 8:30 feeling really woeful, they had dropped down to 96. And you're not really in the danger zone unless they drop down below 95. But I thought, that's interesting. It could explain why I felt so bloody woeful. So I thought, well, you know what? Best thing to do when you feel ick and sick, go to bed. So I did. I went to bed and I fell asleep, and I stayed asleep for over 10 hours. So I needed that rest. So I only got up once in the night to pee, which is a pain in my ass, but once is not so bad. And then I woke up lathered in sweat around about 7-ish, threw my blankets off. So I have 2 big doonas on in winter. And I was actually overheated, so I threw those off, let the air cool down my body and lay like that for a while. And I dozed off, went back to sleep for a while, woke up at 8:07. So that's okay. That was a good night, people of Earth. Old lady-itis and getting myself back to full health. And the warmer months will be coming in a few weeks' time. Start getting warmer usually from the end of August, beginning of September. In a few months I'll be complaining about the scathing heat. So there you go. The joys of living in Brisbane, Queensland, or Queensland in general. It's hotter in other places of Queensland, believe it or not. Even Ipswich is hotter than Brisbane. But if the further you go out west, the hotter it gets. Not that I've ever been out there. So I really need to gather enough money together to travel a bit. But it's not just the cost of petrol, it's accommodation and things like that worry me. So I never go anywhere. Just sit tight in my little post-war cottage on the hills of Holland Park and get old, gracefully or disgracefully at times. So, but yes, one day I'd like to go, up north, places like Emerald and Sapphire, and actually fossick for emeralds and sapphires. I reckon that'd be fun. But yeah, it's accommodation that's the problem. And also, I've got the responsibility. I'd have to get someone to come and look after the birds. And, even when I'm desperately sick, no one will help look after my pets. When I have the surgery and, I get let down. So I don't know what I'll do if I want to go for a holiday anywhere. It's not really on the agenda because I don't have money for that anyway. But I'd have to hire professional pet sitters and hope that they're, honest people and that actually look after my birds. So I worry about that, letting strangers in your house and hoping that they do the right thing. But anyway, looks like my neighbours are moving house. They never stay in that house for very long. On average, 2 to 5 years. These ones have been there about, not sure now, probably about 3 or 4 years. Anyway, they never caused me any bother. They were quite kept to themselves and not friendly but not nasty, just did their own thing. So yeah, so I'm getting new neighbours. That's always anxiety provoking because of my history of psychotic, vicious Moroccan Israelis in Waterford West. I always worry about having a whole level of crazy descending on my doorstep. So it is what it is. But fortunately, I haven't had that level of domestic terrorism happen ever again, thank the goddess. Oh, but gosh, it's a beautiful day, people of Earth. It truly is. The sky's got this intense light behind it, like shining, almost like it's irradiated, like a holographic screen that's a back screen that's lit from behind, which you have to worry about sometimes. My friend Jared reckons the moon is a hologram. Could be too, you just don't know, do you, anymore? The world is so fucking weird. It truly is. But today is a beautiful day, and I'm going to go with it and enjoy it. And you're going to enjoy it with me, because I'm going to read to you chapter 29, Don Jail Inmate number 0994271886. What's my handsome boys doing? Pooping on the clean floor. Oh well, it's a birdie thing. Wherever you be, let your poops run free. Only applies to birdies, you understand, and dogs, and cats are very particular about where they poop. If you provide them with a cat litter tray, if not, then they'll just poop anywhere too. Usually in the bath or the shower stall, because they do try to be clean, cats. They're very, very considerate people, but dogs and birds, not so much. Right. I told them, you guys jump me, I'll hunt each one of you down and I will kill you. I am no bluff. Lorne Campbell. On Tuesday, April 3rd, 2007, Campbell was cleaning his $40,000 gun collection, which included some rusted out ones he had inherited from Mr. Bill. The guns were in terrible shape. He would talk about guns all the time, but they weren't cared for. They were very rusted. I quickly glance over at my silversmithing tools because I worry about them too. It's amazing how quickly they get rusted. Exhibit A. I have to give that a bit of a polish and a sanding. This one's getting rusted too. Very rarely use it. It was just a cheap tool, but it's beside the point. You need to look after your stuff, people of Earth. Anyway, I wouldn't fire any one of them. I wouldn't even give them to somebody. The cleaning done, Campbell forgot to store them safely again. So when Evelyn tidied up, she put them back in their locked cases. The whole incident didn't seem like a big deal at the time and might easily have been forgotten, if not for what happened hours later. Campbell couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to happen. A lot of things didn't quite sit right. He had a nagging feeling, need to get the light off my eyes. He had a nagging feeling that his fishing buddy, Shaky Dave, might have turned rat. There had also been rumours of a pending raid for months. Indeed, an internet blogger had posted a supposedly confidential judge's order allowing federal authorities to seize the Hells Angels fortified clubhouse on Eastern Avenue. The court document was posted on at least 5 internet sites, including one for true crime aficionados, where it appeared on March 25th, 2007, only 11 days after it was drafted. The blogger who posted it identified himself only as DRMM, DRMMFAMM, and a researcher from Toronto, Canada. Then there was the strange mud test by Haney, BC members, and the cryptic comment that members there were tired of junior Ontario members coming west and acting as if they'd been in the club for 15 years. Why would someone say something like that to Campbell? Sorry, people of Earth. Things are on the move in my chest and it's icky. Whose loyalty was unquestioned and who had been on a Harley longer than many of them had been alive. And what about Shaky Dave's increasingly shaky behaviour? He had refused to hug Evelyn a couple of times over the past few months, saying he had a bad cold. That's because he had a wire, Evelyn says now. Just in case there was a raid, Campbell had already moved a lot of his Hells Angels gear, such as sweatshirts and t-shirts and photos and even golf balls, out of the house. That included Angels charter photos from around the world, club guidelines for Canada, membership rules, contact information for bikers in Canada and abroad, incorporation papers, and the 2007 Ontario Hells Angels calendar, with bikers posing like pro wrestlers by their bikes while enraptured strippers looked on in the background. Still inside the house were more mementos and clothing, as well as his colours, which he still wore whenever he climbed on his Harley. Campbell dozed off on his couch, watching television one night, and was awakened at 6 the next morning by a loud banging sound. What the fuck's that, he thought. Next came the tiny sparkles that are released by police percussion bombs. I looked up and there was little sparkles coming down. I wasn't so stunned that I didn't know what was going to happen. His senses had yet cleared when a strange man shouted from inside his house, "Lie down on the floor." Sparkles still hung in the air, and now there were also police in riot gear with helmets and facial shields. Campbell refused to lie down, but as his hands were pulled behind his back and cuffed, he didn't fight back. It wasn't the best way to start the day, but it wasn't the worst morning of his life either. I just thought I was not going to be found guilty and I would get bail the next day. Evelyn was new to this. Fortunately for Campbell. Are you inside the cage with the little bow again? Are you winding him up something chronic? Oh, you is a mean little bird. Taking all his food too. Yes, Clemmy. The nummy, nummy, nummy boy. Oh, look, they're all right. They're okay. Sort of, kind of. Got to keep an eye on them. It's just, you can keep an eye on them for me. Can't really see, can you, from this perspective? Must be an iPhone camera thing. Anyway, we won't worry about it. I'll keep an eye on them. You just relax and listen to the story, people of Earth. Right, here we go. Fortunately for Campbell, she had stored away his gun collection, or that would have led to a new raft of charges for unsafe storage. Evelyn demanded to see a search warrant before police carried out his vest with his club colours on a coat hanger. Evelyn ordered the officers to stop immediately. "They belong to the club," she said, grabbing the vest. "Yes, we can," said the officer, pulling them back. He showed her the search warrant, which allowed them to take anything with Hell's Angels on it. They carried out club plaques and photos, as well as 23 shotguns and rifles and a compound bow. Evelyn's cell phone was ringing non-stop now, with friends and members wondering what was going on. The downtown Toronto charter of the Hells Angels on Eastern Avenue had also been raided that morning, as had homes of other members. The raids were the culmination of an 18-month operation called Project Develop, which involved some 400 officers and relied on information from a paid police agent. The only home in his club circle that wasn't raided was that of Shaky Dave Atwell. How stupid are they actually? Dumb, dumb and dumber. But anyway, we pretty much know what happened to Shaky Dave in the end, don't we? Do I approve or disapprove? I'm not going to say. Not my monkey, not my circus. Staying right out of that. As her phone buzzed, Evelyn turned it face down so that police couldn't read the numbers on its... I'm just the storyteller, people of Earth. Couldn't read the numbers on its call display. It was a shock, but it could have been worse, as Campbell had prepped her on what to do during the police raid. Don't get intimidated. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to go off the handle. I felt for Ev. I had been through stuff like that before. She hadn't. After that morning's pre-dawn raids, there were 111 charges laid against 28 members and associates. The foundation of the case... I've got to clean their cages today too because it's Friday. Was the betrayal of Shaky Dave, soon to be referred to in the club as Ratwell. Some angels tried to convince themselves that Shaky Dave must be suffering inside, but Campbell didn't buy that for a second. A lot of guys would say he can't look at himself in the mirror. I don't believe that. The guy loves himself. Campbell later said the worst was yet to come for Shaky Dave, and it likely wouldn't be in the form of a beating or a bullet from former buddies. Some people in the biker world expect a Hollywood-style happy ending when they go into a witness protection program. They think everything's going to change. They're going to get a place with a white picket fence. But they're the same guy at the end of it all. On the surface, the charges against Campbell didn't look so bad. He was charged with a drug trafficking conspiracy for agreeing to take $1,000 for introducing Shaky Dave to Sean Robinson for the cocaine deal. He had been captured on video and audio with Shaky Dave telling him the price for a kilo of cocaine was $34 or $34,000. That would be hard to beat. There was also a charge of contributing to a criminal organisation something all of the accused faced. The criminal organisation charge was one that Campbell felt they all had to fight for the sake of the club. If they were branded a criminal organisation, then added time would be tacked on to any future criminal convictions, on the grounds that crimes were committed to benefit a criminal group. Something about the criminal organisation tag rattled Campbell on another level as well. Outsiders might consider it strictly semantics, but Campbell felt there was a critical point at stake. It's a motorcycle club with criminals in it, not a criminal organisation. It's an important distinction. Campbell may have looked stoic as the fight began, but he was concerned his club might be taking a serious hit. I have the same emotions as everybody else, but I don't show them. Here's my beautiful birdie boys. Locked up in Toronto's Don jail, Campbell was denied bail, which was troubling, but he remained optimistic he could have that overturned. What concerned him more was that Evelyn now had to make a 2-hour drive down to see him and then drive back home alone. She would never complain to me, never once. On one of her first visits at the Don, Evelyn told him of the strange experience of driving through crowded downtown Toronto. I gave this homeless guy $10 so he could take the subway to Pickering, she told Campbell. She noted that the stranger told her a taxi would cost $100, which was far too much. You idiot, the subway doesn't go to Pickering. It was an almost predictable thing for Evelyn to have done. She wasn't a city person and was still soft-hearted when it came to all strays, even human ones. Don't fucking open your window for anybody, Campbell sputtered. But you know what? I often give a little bit of money to homeless. I don't have much money myself, you understand. So sometimes it's a $2 coin. Sometimes they might get $5 if I've got enough to get them a bit of a meal. Not that that buys you much either. Now even McDonald's is at least $15 now. But I'll give them $10, you know. And there's no harm in actually being kind and a little bit generous from time to time. And, you know, be decent to homeless people. Like that hard-assed attitude, I'm so fucking tough, but I'm so fucking tight. You know, it doesn't get you anywhere. It just makes you kind of ugly inside. That's just how I feel about it. And yeah, I'm a bit of a soft touch and a target. And I've been used and horrifically abused and back in the day, as you know, from my childhood and, you know, my adulthood too. But I've really been used by just sordid, low entity motherfuckers that were supposed to be friends or lovers back in the day. But you know what? I have no regrets about being a kind, generous at times, because I don't have the resources to be too generous, but I don't have any regrets. Yesterday I had a phone call from the lady who gave me the birds, freaking out that, you know, my neighbour down the road, that she couldn't get hold of her and she was worried about her because we're all older women and we all live alone and we all have quite serious health issues. Avril has terrible problems with asthma, worse than me actually. My asthma's been good except for this lingering after that weird lurgy I had a month ago. But she's often down for the count, you know, she's got other health issues as well. And I had crawled into bed on my electric blanket in the afternoon to have a bit of a nap because I really wasn't feeling well yesterday. I really wasn't. I pushed myself through the day, but I was just feeling, weak. And so I just laid down. This would have been, I think it was cold and miserable and rainy too. So it was about 5, it was about 5 in the afternoon because people were coming home from work. I get this text from Phoebe worrying about Avril. And, they've been very kind to me. Avril's given me, some lovely clothes and food parcel, at Christmas time, which was very kind of her. Bear in mind, we're all kind of in the same socioeconomic position. So they've been very kind to me, those two women. Phoebe, I don't really know, but it's astonishing. I barely know her, but she gave me these 2 beautiful birds, which are not tame, but we're working on that. But, it was very sweet of her to do that. It helped her because she wasn't able to manage them anymore. And it helps me because I've got companionship in the house again. And little faces looking at me with ambivalence. Oh, well, it is what it is. But, I am grateful to that lady. It was very sweet of her to give me her beautiful birds. So she messages me, I'm worried about Avril. She's not answering the phone. Can you go and check on her? I said, well, I've been very ill, and I didn't tell her that I'd just crawled into bed, But I thought it's a short walk up the road, but I'm not going to walk there because it was raining and cold and miserable and I'm not well. But, it's 1 minute drive up the road. So I jumped in the car, drove there, parked there, got out, banged on the door. Car wasn't there. Clearly she wasn't there. I get on the blower, I ring Phoebe. I said, Phoebe, she's not here. There's no sign of her being here. Her car's not here, otherwise I would freak out that she's passed out on the floor or something, but her car's not here. Oh, thanks, Tanya. She's clearly gone out. So I get back in my car. I go back home. I didn't go back to bed because, I don't know what I did. Got busy watching things on YouTube. But, those little things, those little acts of chivalry and kindness don't cost you anything except time and effort and jumping in the car, a little bit of petrol. So, what am I saying here? There's no need to go through life being a hard-assed arsehole your whole life. It just makes you cruel and sadistic and selfish and narcissistic and psychopathic and just fucking awful. So, I've kind of admired this guy for his courage and his grit and his guts. But, being mean about homeless people, that's disgraceful because there but for the grace of God go you. It's a complex problem as to how people end up homeless. It's not that simple, and you've got no right to judge. And homelessness is exponentially increasing, even here in Australia. And those people have suffered enough without you. I don't give them $10 or don't even look at them, don't even speak to them. Like, seriously, fuck off. I was almost homeless on several occasions, dragging my children around, traumatised, freshly strangled, with no money and no resources. It came very, very close. I made the terrible mistake of moving in with my mother for 8 months, which brought me to the brink of suicide because she was such an asshole. But, I made sure there was a roof over my kid's head, and it cost us emotionally. We were all damaged by that experience because my mother was fucking psychopathic and narcissistic, unstable, and undermining and devaluing, started hitting my kids as well. Like, it was the living end. We got out of there. Jasmine's never forgiven me, by the way. It's one of the factors that cost me Jasmine's, you know, love as a daughter. All that trauma we went through when we were already, you know, escaping fucking arseholes. No, sorry, that came after. I moved in with that arsehole to escape the viciousness of my mother, and then they went so domestic terrorist on me. That came after. Let's get the chronology right, Tanya. The truth must remain the truth, and facts are facts. So that came after. But we were just so fucking traumatised. Me and my two little girls. And then they had to have access visits with their father, who wasn't interested in them, and just sat in front of the TV while he bitched about, you know, everything, because he's a malcontent malingerer and an arsehole. And that was their childhood, people of Earth. And by the way, I didn't want them to have access visits with him, actually. But it's, you know, it's family court law. You send your children to these arseholes that actually don't really have much love or respect for their little girls at all. And, you know, as a child sexual abuse survivor, I sat every weekend that they had access with their dad, eating my own liver, actually worrying about what he was capable of. I'm not saying he did anything. I don't think he did anything. He wasn't sleazy around them like I grew up with more my fathers, but it's always in the back of your psyche, you know. Is he going to leave them alone with some defunct dead shit? Or is he going to creep them out? Or is he going to be inappropriate with them? You live with that constant dread the entire time you're raising your girls. And then when they're young adult women and teenagers, then you worry about some arsehole, you know, essaying them. It never ends, worrying about your little girls. And if you've got little boys, you worry about them too. You know, our children are never safe. And there's people that are oblivious to that just lived in such white privileged, cotton-wooled, Pollyanna, you know, Oompa Loompa, floating down the yellow brick road in complete fucking denial. But I can't live that way because that was my childhood, the worst possible scenarios. So, don't be vicious to the homeless. Many of them had childhoods like mine. You know, you see them drunk or drugged out of their mind. They're trying to cope with their fucking innate traumas. Don't judge so harshly. Or, try this for something for a change. Instead of being a cuntish cunt and begrudging them a few dollars, well, it's going to go on drugs or alcohol. So what? If it's keeping them alive or mollycoddling them a bit so they can get through another day, you don't know. They might turn their lives around one day. They might randomly, by the grace of the gods, start to get better. They might overcome their traumas. They might get housing. They might become quite respectable, integrated members of society. They might be the greatest poets and writers and artists and musicians you ever fucking met, because a lot of them have innate genius and talents, by the way. Have you ever tried talking to a homeless person and taking the time to ask them, you know, how's life for you? What's life been for you? Like my little homeless friend, well, she's not little, she's taller than me, but my homeless friend Katrina, see, that's infantilizing, calling her little, but I didn't mean it that way. I mean it as a mark of affection. Anyway, my friend Katrina, you know, she suffers from schizophrenia, probably brought on by childhood trauma and abuse. And one day I was sitting with her. I used to sit with her after I danced all night till 2 or 3 in the morning. I'd go out and sit with her and talk to her and just spend a few hours before going home because I live alone. What am I going to go home to? Well, I used to rush home for my dog, when my dog was alive. But, I used to spend the night out and the whole night and sit with homeless and the buskers and talk to people. And you know what? It was actually good for me. It taught me things about street people and what life's like on the streets. And the worst thing I learned was how the wealthier people that deem themselves up the social ladder, and not by much because they were losers and gamblers, by the way, coming out, spitting at them, saying vicious, cruel things. I learnt a lot from that, the evil and the ugliness of those who think they're somehow superior or better or more entitled. And no, I'm not Jesus, and I'm not, I'm not a saintly person or anything like that. But it's eye-opening. You should try it, you judgmental, cuntish cunts, but you won't because you're too good. You think you're too good. You learn nothing about the world. You're so insulated and isolated. You're so stupid you went along with a certain government programming 5 years ago because you don't bother to open your mind and be expansive and learn about the world and other people's issues and problems and how it might impact on the whole of society. And instead of being kind and, trying to assist in some way, you sit back in your smug, privileged world. And you know what? You're the types of people I actually, to be honest, kind of hoped would die of COVID because you're empty and vapid and you've got nothing to contribute with your hatred and bigotry and xenophobia and racism and ugliness and, your homophobia. I find those types of people soulless and empty and vapid. You're like cardboard cutouts walking around, stuffing your face, fucking whoever you can get your dick into or whoever your pussy gets moist for. And that's all you are. You're just eating, farting, fucking, soulless NPC automatons. So don't fucking open your window for anybody, Campbell sputtered, which is a safety issue. I probably wouldn't open my window for just anybody either, but if you're walking in a street and you can see a homeless person and they haven't actually asked you for anything because, they're just sitting there minding their own business, they're not panhandling, they're not being a pest, they're not begging, because yes, that can be annoying at times. If they hassle me for money, I just walk on by because there's fault on both sides of that equation. That can be NPC too. But if you see someone that's genuinely struggling and, is just happy if you fucking smile at them, that's how lonely it is on the streets. It doesn't hurt you, to buy them a coffee or here's some money, get yourself some lunch. Get something to eat, sit and have lunch with them. It doesn't hurt you. Of course, after you get to know them a little bit, don't force yourself on people. It's like boundaries, people, but you know what I mean. I spent many nights sitting out with Katrina and other homeless people would come along and they'd just nod at me. And they got to know me a little bit too, and some were wary because like any group of people, you're going to have people that are not so friendly or wary, and others would just nod at me and hello, and I feel good about that. I feel good about that I'm not an empty, soulless NPC, body slung over a coat hanger on a rack, being shuffled by society and taught to hate and taught to be vicious and sadistic and just something that's just strung up on a hook like a meat sack walking around society. some fucking societal drone that's got really goes to work, comes home, fucks and eats and farts and hates themselves and hates everyone. Sorry, but that's no way to live either. It really isn't. And I'm speaking from experience here. Filling yourself up with drugs and alcohol so you can just barely exist in the world. And that's not just homeless people that do that, but the higher ups as well. You know, it's just putrid. We won't even mention the big pharma shenanigans that have poisoned nearly everyone in society, because it's an industry and it's part of the military industrial complex, and it's part of the genocide, by the way. It's all part of it. A multi-pronged attack, just like the spike protein thing with that ball with all the little spikes trying to attach itself to every part of the human body. It's the perfect image they presented to us. Put it in a museum in Switzerland, didn't they? I saw that. I laughed my ass off. Right up in our faces, they're telling us, we're going to destroy you, one by one by one. And you willingly, well, I didn't participate in that willingly. Trust me on that one. But most people willingly participated in it because they didn't have the life skills or the street smarts or the intelligence. Some were extremely educated people, but somehow yet they had some lack of common sense or global intelligence to think, wait just a minute here, there's something wrong with this picture, which I couldn't even put into words and describe. It was just a gut feeling. And then when I saw all the symbology that they were pushing in our face daily, I thought, what is a donut but a piece of dough with a hole in it that you poke? When they started with offering free football tickets in return for going along with that programming, I thought. Then they offered lotteries. They were getting desperate. Lotteries for that. I thought, I'm not going to sell my soul for that. If I get COVID, I'll probably die, because they told us we would all die. Well, I got the COVID and I was sick for 9 days, but I didn't die. In fact, this last lurgy, I don't know whether it was a variant of COVID. I didn't even bother to test. This last lurgy has knocked me around worse than the COVID. I was sick for 9 days with COVID and then it left me and I got better. This thing, as often happens with flus, I think it was some kind of flu. It was a weird one though, because it just made me reflux and all inflamed in my gut and my chest. It was awful. But this thing has been worse and lingered on longer, now up to 4 weeks on Saturday, tomorrow, than the actual COVID did. So none of what was told us was actually based on truth or facts. It was just designed to control us and put us into fear consciousness. So no, you can't make me be vicious to homeless people, vicious to people who are already ill and broken down or have lost everything multiple times, like I have, enabled by my government, by the way. You can't make me turn rancid on people unless they've turned rancid on me for no good reason but that I foolishly and quite naively and sweetly fell in love. So, piss on those people that thought that was okay to crap on me from a great height because I fell in love. You know? I know, I'm well aware that bottom line, your hidden agenda is you want me dead, and otherwise you wouldn't have behaved that way. Vicious it was. But Mama T has a way of surviving and coming back to full evanescence, and nobody fucks with the Tanya. Be very afraid when I get to my full vitality and I'm riding high again. Be very, very fucking afraid, because I know what you are. A meat sack strung up on a coat hanger, being pushed along by your own government and the winds of fate, and you haven't even thought once how ridiculous that makes you. Shameful it is. Can't even think for yourself and decide who's real and who's true and who's actually honourable and loving. Can't think. Too addled. Well, we know what addled you, so I'll forgive that. I'll forgive it. It's not your fault your government coerced you into addling yourself. By the gods. His lawyer, Andrew Perrin, brought in top-flight criminal lawyer Tony Bryant, and Campbell told him immediately that he wanted to get to trial quickly. Rushing to trial meant they couldn't weigh the Crown's evidence in a pre-trial, but it also saved money in legal fees and potential jail time awaiting trial. I actually feel like vomiting now. I've upset myself over that. The viciousness, the sadism, the sickness. But this is the world I inhabit now. It's awful, isn't it? It's awful. Right, let me continue. That idea fizzled, however, as the Crown denied attempts to sever Campbell's case from those of the others or to forego a preliminary. My beautiful boys, you're going outside today. We're going to make the most of the sunshine. Absolutely. Authorities didn't have to explain why Campbell was the lone Hells Angel deposited in the Don jail. Clearly they didn't want him with the other angels, as he could be expected to push them to plead not guilty to anything involving conspiracy or contributing to a criminal organisation. He also was pushing for everyone to take trial by jury on criminal organisation charges, since club members always seemed to lose when they left that determination up to a judge. The Don jail was a tough place to be alone, especially for a Hells Angel in his late 50s. Originally opened in 1864, the Don had deservedly garnered generations of bad press. In 1928, a grand jury called it a disgrace. In 1931, a mayoral delegation reported, don't do that. No, bad bird. Bad bird, bad bird. As I was keeping an eye out, I could just sense the restlessness. You know, you can tell when something or someone's about to turn rancid. It's kind of a fluttering like an angry hornet nest in the energy. You can sense it, people of Earth. You really can. Kermie, In 1931, a mayoral delegation reported many of the cells are so narrow a fat horse could not be backed into them. That's awful, isn't it? That's really awful. And in 1935, a grand jury called it an overcrowded dungeon like the Black Hole of Calcutta. Oh, little Bo, I wouldn't go near him, he's going to attack you. You see? Birdies want to be together no matter what, no matter who. Globe and Mail writer Kirk Macon once wrote that the people who ran the Don back then weren't trying to make it a nice place. In its heyday, the prevailing ethic at the Don jail was simple. Prison should be a harsh and intimidating experience that no sane person would want to repeat. To that end, the last thing an offender saw as he entered the Don from the outside world was a mawkish stone figure of Father Time carved into the stone above the front door of the jail. Inside, numerous wrought iron serpents and dragons emerge from the dark, connecting walls to balconies and catwalks. Floggings were conducted on the floor of its central rotunda, with inmates watching the gruesome spectacle from the balconies. For a long time, talking was prohibited. Awful. There were 34 legal executions in its gallows, and in the early 2000s. 15 skeletons were discovered in an outside exercise yard. There were also some 70 murders. Sorry. Where was I? Lost my spot. There were also some 70 murders, with prisoners getting beatings or worse from other inmates for offences such as looking at someone the wrong way, taking too long in the shower, or sitting in someone else's chair. By the time Campbell arrived at the Don, prisoners were housed in a new wing built in 1977. But the bad karma wafted over from the old dungeon. Politicians had been promising since 1996 to tear the whole place down, and in 1997, a decade before Campbell walked inside, the US State Department wrote in its annual Human Rights Report, conditions were described as so depressing that some inmates purportedly pled guilty in order to be sent to other facilities and thus avoid awaiting trial in the jail. All municipal and provincial jails lack the rehabilitation programs and other recreational facilities found in federal penitentiaries, since they're a place for defendants awaiting trial or convicts serving short stays. That meant anyone from an underworld hitman or a terrorist to a lifelong pervert, to a parole violator or drunk driver, could be found within the Don's walls, breathing its stale air. There seemed no end to the ways that jail was worse than prison. In prisons, inmates can purchase calling cards to phone their loved ones and lawyers at pre-assigned times. In jail, they have to call collect, and the Don had only 4 phones to use. These were often monopolised by prisoners such as Eric Boateng, one of the Jamaican gang members who called themselves gangsters. Boateng, who was just in his late teens, seemed to be on one phone all day, as if it belonged to him alone. In prisons, interested inmates applied for cooking jobs, and they're fired if there are too many complaints from the customers. If they don't do a good job, they don't keep it. In jail, food is often served up by inmates who are indifferent at best and hostile at worst. In the Don, Campbell refrained from consuming any coffee or tea, fearing what mystery ingredients might lie in the dark waters of his cup. In jail, I got a pain under my rib cage. Ouch. Oh. In jail, I guess my Apple iPhone would have been telling me to stand up. In jail, inmates are separated from their loved ones during visiting times by thick plexiglass. Physical contact is impossible, although women often pull open their blouses and lift their skirts in the wheelchair-accessible area, which has a particularly wide viewing area. You never get to hold your wife, your kids. Prisons have weight rooms, tracks, and basketball courts, and sometimes also handball, mini-putt, and 9-hole golf. Jails have none of these. Motivated prisoners are forced to improvise workout programs they can follow in their tiny and often crowded cells. What you doing, handsome boy? You're confused because the swing is down low. That's because I've got your top open. Yes, that's right. The top is open. Good boy. You're such a lovely bird. You're both lovely birds. Prisons are often cleaner than jails, such as the Don, where mice were part of the general population. Campbell found himself developing ear infections and scabs in the corner of his eyes not long after he arrived. Prison inmates can wear regular clothes, while in jail they wore only clown-like orange jumpsuits and blue slippers. In prison, inmates can have radios and televisions and can work on leather and wood crafts. In jail, they can't even have pens and must do their writing with a shortened pencil. Just a few years before Campbell arrived, there was a move to desegregate the Don. Black gangsters had been housed in an area nicknamed Motown, while repeat offenders who had done federal penitentiary time were kept in the Pen Range. The problem, authorities concluded, was that this arrangement only made gangster street gangs such as the Melvins and Crips feel stronger and more special. So by the time Campbell arrived, the prevailing thinking was that other inmates, including bikers, should be housed in the gangsters' midst to dilute their power. At 59, Campbell was almost triple the age of many of them. The trouble started on his first full day of custody, when he saw a tray of hot cross buns in the meal line on the range. The gangsters who were in charge of handing out food seemed in no hurry to pass him one, so Campbell reached out and grabbed a bun for himself and put it on his food tray. "Yo, yo!" a voice behind him shouted. "Yo! We don't reach for the food here." Campbell wheeled around and glared in the direction of the voice. "Don't you fucking yo me." "Where are you going with that?" asked Eric Boateng, who seemed to have a particularly elevated status among the gangsters. Boateng was one of more than a dozen gangsters arrested after the fatal shooting of 14-year-old bystander Jane Krieber on Yonge Street on Boxing Day 2005. "I'm going to fucking eat it," Campbell replied. Within seconds, he was encircled by a half-dozen Jamaican gangsters, all in their late teens or early 20s. It often seems the lower you get in life, the more the little things matter. Now, in the belly of the city's worst jail, gangsters and an aging Hell's Angel were ready to go to war over a sweet-tasting pastry. "I'll take on this whole fucking range. I wasn't born the day I got to go to the Don. You guys jump me and I'll hunt each one of you down and I will kill you. I'm no bluff." A jail captain pushed in between them and faced the gangsters. He was wearing a white shirt, showing he was higher in rank than the blue-shirted guards. "He's got friends, and he ain't no fucking show." "I don't depend on my friends." "Neither do I. Not in a war situation, I don't. But to you, Adrian, who jumped in to protect me when I got into a bit of a fracas with two very nasty, jealous little bitches. You're the man, Mama T never forgets, who had my back, my front and my sides. "I don't depend on my friends," Campbell snapped at the captain. "Let's get it fucking on." Which tells me his blood was up because he was wanting to fight his own fight like a real man and a real woman does. Indeed. But I am actually grateful for the support and the love that was shown me that night. Very grateful. Thank you, Brooklyn Standard, and Richard, and all the security. We were all taken a bit by surprise that night, because I don't usually lose my cool. But that female had been at me and at me and at me for about an hour and a half before I finally lost my cool. And I still don't know what that was actually about, except probably another example of Mother Hydra baby just turning someone savage. Pretty young girl too. Should have known better. Don't attack the older women. We're older. We've lived life. And we're not there to take shit from you. We're there to dance, have a good time, have a few drinks, enjoy the live music, and go home to our little old beds with our little old electric blankets and revert to Crindon for the rest of the week. If I feel better tomorrow, I'll be out dancing again, but I'll have to see how my lungs behave tomorrow. So I'm not going to push myself out. Got nothing to prove, and I only go out for my own pure enjoyment, as I have every right to do, safely. There's people out there that are even envious of that. Me as an older woman, dancing. Sad motherfuckers, aren't they? Really sad. The captain made it clear there wouldn't be a brawl on his watch, finally asking, "We don't have a problem here, do we?" The next day, Campbell was handcuffed to a gangster in his early 20s as they were transported in a police van to the Finch Avenue courthouse. The gangster at the end of his wrist seemed polite enough, so Campbell introduced him to his Hells Angels clubmates in the courthouse bullpen. The gangster was facing a murder charge, was the only black prisoner in the jailhouse bullpen, and clearly appreciated Campbell's courtesy. That night, without Campbell knowing, this polite senior gangster got word to his friends on Campbell's range at the Don Jail that they should back off the old Hells Angel. So you see what I mean by just a simple bit of basic courtesy, basic kindness, how that can mean the difference between literally life and death. You never know who's watching and who sees your courage, but also who sees your sweetness and kindness and decency. And it doesn't matter who you are or what you are, that goes through every echelon of human society. Courtesy and respect and a bit of genuine care. Honour amongst men and women. By the gods. The next day, Boateng walked over to Campbell and asked, "Are you being treated okay?" "What do you fucking care?" Campbell replied. "You getting everything you should be getting?" "Yeah, why?" "I'm just wondering." That was Howard's sea change and how Campbell was treated by the jailhouse. So, dear goddess. I really am struggling, you know, I'm really tired. It's not enough bloody oxygen in my blood, eh? What do I care? And for a penny and for a pound. I did well to make it to 60. I'll probably make it to 70 if I'm too careful too. Maybe. One can never know these things. Let me repeat that. There was now a sea change in how Campbell was treated by the jailhouse gangsters. Other inmates routinely had their jug-ups or nighttime snacks of tea and cookies stolen by them, but Campbell was spared such indignities. Boateng continued to steal desserts and snacks such as peanut butter from other inmates. but he and his crew were now invariably polite with Campbell. It was like being back in training school when we stood up to the bullies. They would deliver my desserts. If I didn't get it, I would say, "Where's my fucking dessert?" They would say, "Hold on, and give me 2 or 3. I like that. I like that a lot. Got to look after us older ones. Not that we should be more privileged than anyone else, but some of us have fought a long, hard, grueling, tortured fight just to still be alive in these meat sacks, and Mama T ain't hanging on no coat hanger, although when she feels a bit depersonalised, I'll say things like, "My entire body hangs off these cheekbones, which is stolen from Jermaine Greer and absolutely fabulous." But you do feel like you're just, a puppet on a string, just being manipulated sometimes, and I hate that feeling. I especially hate the feeling when I'm not grounded in my own body and, I'm in a kind of a psychosis. It's a depersonalisation and a horrible feeling. But some of you have never experienced that, so you've got no idea what I'm talking about. So I'll just leave it at that. In the mornings now, Campbell was allowed to use the showers first. Anyone trying to wash before him was told, "Get the fuck out of there. Mr. Campbell's coming." So they treated him like a veritable king just for being kind to that black prisoner. So you see, he's an asshole towards the homeless, which is odd, but he was kind to the black prisoner and that made him king of the entire prison. Odd, isn't it? Swings and roundabouts, and how one person's influence or respect of you can make the difference between being king or queen or withering on the fucking vine. Well, Mama T withers for no one. I don't care that I've been dethroned because a new piece of ass came along. Not my monkey, not my circus. Enjoy your Mother Hydra's babies and your treachery. I'm still queen inside these old lady bones because I anointed myself queen, and I hold my own in any space, in any place, because I've lived and outlived worse monsters than you could even poke a stick at. So, that's how it is, people of Earth. That's how it always shall be. And a truly good man who sees me will know that. You don't treat me bad just because you've got some new piece of fluff frottering like a desperate. You honour the ones who love you. Honour them. Because real love is rarer than hen's teeth and more precious than all the jewels in the world. But if you destroy it, that's on you, babies. Right, we continue on. Nearly finished this chapter. The gangsters took pains to guard the seat where Campbell sat alone and played solitaire. Anyone who approached the chair was sternly told it was off limits. It's Mr. Campbell's seat. They now also made sure they had access to the phones pretty much whenever he wanted. That he had access to the phones whenever he wanted. I'd go, "Who's on the fucking phone after you?" They'd go, "You are." A few months after Campbell's arrival, Boateng was on the street again. He went back to the Don once to visit an inmate while on bail, even though that was against the rules. After this visit, Boateng was shot dead on a Riverdale residential street by men in a van. Word reached Campbell of his death. Despite the special treatment he'd received from the gangsters, Campbell's first thoughts were about the hot cross bun incident and how Boateng had made the Don an even worse hell for fellow inmates by stealing their food. The killers should have stuffed peanut butter in his mouth. Right, well, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. He's got a beautiful way of taking care of business for you. You don't have to do a thing except stand by your truth and your honour and your decency, people of earth. So, on that note, I bid you goodbye for the afternoon. Don't know what time it is. Should be still morning. We're only an hour and 21 minutes in. Anyway, I'm drifting today. I'm going to take my little birdie boys out. We're going to sit in the sunshine. I'm going to have a nice cup of tea. I think I'll heat up some soup. I haven't had a proper breakfast. I've had 2 strawberries, which is odd. My gut kind of feels, can't describe it, bloated. I don't know why. But I'll have some soup and some toast, and I'll live my best life, and the birdie boys will sit in the garden, and then I'll go to Big W. I've got to buy more toilet paper, and boring, and a few other bits and bobs, and I'll just enjoy my day, however it flows out to me beautifully, like an unfurling gift or a red carpet for a queen. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a narcissist. I'm really not. But queens of their own destiny. They got to walk on air. Blessed be, people of earth. Have a beautiful day wherever you are in the space-time continuum, and remember to never ever let the bastards grind you, me, us down.